George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people that we feel good about. And today, we are going to help you take care of your money. You know what I'm saying? I know many of you, especially during this time of year, think about, where's my money going? I want more of it. Well, a lot of that has to do with decisions that you've made in the past and decisions that you're going to make going forward. So we're pleased to start a series of conversations with Vicki Brackens. Vicki is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions, LLC. They're also a supporter and sponsor of Inspiration for the Nation. We're so glad that they're here and that we're having a very needed and necessary conversation about the ways in which we could all do better with our money. And Vicki, so glad to see you. And welcome back to the radio and the airwaves. We used to see Vicki on Financial Fitness on WCNY. So we're, in a sense, alumni. Although our ships were passing in the night. I think my ship had passed by the time you got there. But I spent a long time there. And you were were you on the board by the time I got there?
No, actually, I was never on the board, but was the co-host there for Financial Fitness, with Jim Burns. We had a fantastic time. As you said, we sort of were ships passing in the night, but you left a legacy there that we were able to build on.
We appreciate that so much, and so we want to create more of a legacy, right? Because legacy is part of what we're trying to do within our community in particular, and helping people to begin to do and build generational wealth. So let's talk about some of the things that we will be talking about going forward.
Well, paging back a little bit, George, I always like to set the stage for a conversation, and since this is going to be a series, I think we have plenty of time to make sure we have a really good foundation as to what we're going to do going forward. Many times when we talk about money, we always deal with the mechanics of money, setting up a budget and how do you look at your expenses and all of those types of things. And while those things are extremely important, over the last, I'm happy to say it, over the last 29 years, because that's how long Brackens Financial Solutions Network, as far as my involvement with financial services here in the Syracuse area has been going on, I have learned some things that I want to share with the audience. And that is, and it's going to sound really very simple, but it's really very complicated, everything is connected. When you start thinking about the decisions that you've made in the past and how they affect you today and how they will affect you in the future, if you connect those dots early at the time of the initial decision and really watch how they play out, and I'm sure there's some people who are listening today who can go back and say, when I started my first job, If I had just,
right?
Well, what we really want to emphasize is that in our conversations, what's the connectivity between this decision, which is going to lead to this outcome, which will lead to another decision, because everything is connected. I also found about 5 years ago that there was a pyramid that I wanted to share with everyone on how we describe and view wealth building. And the pyramid is basically this. I want everybody sort of to imagine this. Draw a pyramid on a piece of paper.
Oh, you want us to do? Okay, so this is not just tell. This is show and tell.
No, this is show and tell.
Yeah.
Absolutely show and tell. Okay,
all right. So I got my pen now.
You got your pen and paper.
Doing the pyramid.
I want you to draw a triangle.
I was going to say, right, because some people they forgot about that. A pyramid is a three-shaped
triangle. Okay, so draw a pyramid. Draw a triangle.
This for those of y'all that fell asleep during geometry. Let's go back, right?
Exactly. It's all connected, remember,
right.
Okay? And on the bottom rung of the pyramid, so I want you to draw a line near the bottom, say about a quarter of the way up, and then draw 5 rungs across the pyramid.
Okay.
In the first one, I want you to put in the letter P.
P.
The second one, the letter B.
B.
The next one, the letter S.
S.
The next one, the letter P. The next one, the letter R.
R.
And on the side of one of the rungs, so on the side, the letter W.
W, okay.
Okay. This is what that represents. Stages in your life as far as your money is concerned.
Okay.
The first one being possibly poor.
Ooh.
The next one being broke.
The
The next one being stable, prosperous, rich, and on the side, wealthy. Now, I had a great friend of mine one day because I said, I have been poor in my life.
You have been poor in your life?
Yeah, and she said, you've never been poor, Vicki. And I went, well, what do you mean I've never been poor? She said, you don't know what poor is. So here's the definition after some research and some time in this and conversations and really digging into my soul that I realized that poor might be. It's not the only definition, but one that I use quite often. And poor is actually without resources and without options.
Without resources and without options.
And without options.
Okay.
The next one, though, broke, is just without resource. So what's the difference here? I would say many of us have been profoundly broke. Okay?
Right.
Our resources have been extremely limited. But we had options. What options did we have? We had the option of, we've got family support systems.
Right.
We've got community around us. We have networks. We have education. All of those things, when you put them together, provide a resource base that, as far as options are concerned, where you can take the resource base and leverage it to the next stages of wealth building. But poor is without resource and without options. So it's about now building in options along with the resources to move you to, and you say, well, why would I want to be in a state of brokenness? Well, brokenness happens, okay?
Right. But it's temporary. You know, Ben Carson, though, did you hear what he said?
I heard what he said.
See, he says, and I guess poor and poverty, are you distinguishing the two?
I am.
All right.
I am very much so.
All right, because he said poverty was a state of mind.
It is not a state of mind. Poverty is without cash, okay, without resource, okay? In fact, there's a great talk on the TED segment right now, and that I would recommend that your listeners look at on what poverty really is. But what I'm saying is that poor is without resource and without option, so that we have a good definition of what we're doing moving forward. Then we get to stable. Stable is basically, I've got a job, money is coming in, I'm probably only meeting in the middle, okay, as far as, just enough for just enough money,
right.
But at least stable is for me, or is ahead of me. And then we have prosperous. What I define as prosperous is an individual who has more than enough to meet the daily obligations and do some of the things that they desire in life.
That's prosperity.
That's prosperity, okay? Now, here's where we get really what I call, or the kids would say, twisted.
All right.
The difference between rich
and prosperity
and wealthy.
Rich and wealthy. All right. So you're moving from prosperous. Now we're rich. Okay.
And rich is an overabundance. It's about all the stuff. We can buy anything that we want, anytime that we want, do anything that we want. But it may or may not be wealthy. There was a great philosopher, and I call him a philosopher in financial services, Nick Murray, who defined wealth, and I started studying with him probably 10, 15 years ago. But wealth as being the ability to live the life you want with the resources that you have. It can span many rungs, okay, between stable and rich. And if you think about it, you probably have said this to possibly your parents or someone in your sphere of influence. How can they be so happy but they don't have so much? Because they have a understanding of wealth. They're living the life that they want to live with the resources that they have.
Right.
Okay? So I like to go through this conversation about this pyramid because as we talk more and more, I want everyone to reflect on where do I fall in this pyramid and what connectivity is there between the decisions that I made in the past and the status I'm in right now, where I am as far as state of being right now, and what it's going to do to lead me to the future. Okay?
To the lifestyle that you want.
To the lifestyle that you want.
Okay. So this is some good education, especially around some of the decisions that we've made, and people who consider themselves wealthy obviously made good decisions for themselves.
Right. Okay.
We assume that.
We're assuming that they made good decisions, but make sure that you are not just focusing on wealthy being how much cash I have piled up. Wealthy is also what is it doing for my life well-being. Mm-hmm. If you are...
You're talking about holistic now.
Holistic, absolutely. Absolutely, because it's not only just the cash, which is important. Believe me, I like cash. It's important. But it's what impact is it having on my life? If I made a decision that I wanted to spend quality time with my family, but I can't spend quality time with my family because I'm always chasing a particular thing, then am I really living do I have good well-being in my life? Am I really wealthy? No, I just have a lot of cash. You've heard this over and over, and a lot of times you go like, how can an athlete or someone say, I'm unhappy and I got all this money? It's because they haven't reached a point of wealthiness yet. They are not living the life that they want.
Well, then, can you go back then? So you said, well, Ben Carson is wrong because he said poverty is a state of mind, and you said he's wrong about that. But but at the same time, you're saying that wealth is a state of mind or a state of being. So how can that be wrong? How could he be wrong and you be right?
Okay. I believe, not having a conversation with Secretary Carson, that he's saying that if you only change your state of mind,
right,
then you will no longer be poor. Mm-hmm. That is not what I'm saying. Okay. What I am saying is that you need to recognize what is important to you in life so that as you are focusing your efforts toward building wealth or building money or building a financial portfolio, that you are not compromising what you want to accomplish just because you are aiming for the wrong goal. So if George Kilpatrick said to me tomorrow, I want to be sure that I can send my kids to college, mm-hmm. that my wife and I can go on vacations twice a year, and that I can pay off my mortgage, and he's aiming for that goal, and that is what his goal is, basically the family, is his goal, then he has reached a status of wealth, whether he gets to $5 million or $50,000, whatever it takes to accomplish that,
right,
is where he will
food
find
on the table.
Wealth. So identifying. Now, what I believe the secretary was saying is that just by changing your mindset,
you're going to be good.
You're going to be good. And that's not it. Because you have to have a goal that you're aiming for and accomplishing that, within that sphere.
So over the next several weeks, we'll be delving more deeply into some of these issues so that people really understand. Because I think part of it, we talk about state of mind. I want to talk about emotional connections and our feelings about wealth and whether we deserve it. And then there's also the spiritual connection. A lot of people believe that their wealth and their well-being is tied to their spiritual commitment. People believe that, or at least in some traditions, it's written. It is written, right? You tithe and you will be blessed. So there's all of those things that come into play.
And so that's why I started early on saying that everything is connected. When we try and say that money or building wealth is a siloed activity.
All right, we're talking with Vicki Brackens. Vicki is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC. Great supportive inspiration for the nation. Now, look, if you just got in the middle of it and you heard Vicki talking about all of these different things, we drew a pyramid. And in that pyramid, or triangle, we put 5 rungs. And at the bottom of the rung was poor, which is without options and without resources, and then broke without resources, stable, I can take care of my things, but it's just the end of just meeting. I am prosperous, which is where I can do a lot more of the things I want to do, but I'm not quite there yet. And then there's rich, right? Where I have an abundance of things and choices, but I'm not yet wealthy, because that needs to be connected to my desire to do the things that I want to do in my life. And that may or may not mean rich by a cash money definition. Talk to me, Vicki Brackens, because I just broke it down.
George, I'm going to take you on the road with me.
We got this. All right. So you listen, Vicki's going to come back with some great tips over the next several weeks. So I suggest that when the sister's on the air, you sit still, get that pen and paper out, start taking notes, because in the midst of all of that, she be listen to me with colloquial, she drops pearls. But for those y'all on the block, she be dropping pearls, right? So listen, this will be great, and I just want you to know that we're so excited about the series. Vicki Brackens is back in the game, y'all, and we're about to change some lives on Inspiration for the Nation. Vicki, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much, George.
George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation.